Hello, today I will tell you about the castle of the Livonian order. I am the wife of the lord of the castle, who lived with him in this castle during the Duchy of Courland. I will tell you about the past and the present form of the castle, because unfortunately or fortunately, I am the ghost of the castle. My soul could not leave this beautiful castle. The beginning of the castle goes back to the 13th century. It was built for the soldiers of the Crusades, and the castle was built as a convent-type building with an inner courtyard, and it can be considered as the oldest medieval fortress in Latvia, which has preserved its original appearance almost unchanged. It is suggested that the first fortifications in Ventspils, including the present castle tower, were built not later than in the year 1263, when the territory came under the command of the order. In total, the territory around the castle and Ventspils itself has been uninhabited, but in the middle of the 14th century, a village was formed, which can also be considered the beginning of the city of Ventspils. The ancient name of the castle of the Livonian order is Schloss Wendau, the style of architecture Gothic, which after centuries was rebuilt in the manner of the empire. In my opinion, the castle looked better in the manner of Gothic. It gave the castle a special look and feeling. As far as I know, from the 13th up to the 16th century, the castle was used by the brothers of the Livonian order. Initially, the castle had only 2 floors, a gun gallery in the attic, and a single pitched roof. The oldest part of the castle was built at the end of the 13th century, originally a freestanding tower. In the middle of the 14th century, a fortress with an inner courtyard was gradually built. One of the first parts of it is the palace chapel. It is the only chapel in Latvia with a raised altar. In the chapel of the castle, me and my husband were married. It was fabulous and beautiful. Later we had celebrations in the palace garden. At that time, the garden was much more well-groomed and magnificent than now. In the 15th century, the 3rd floor of the castle was built. Until the 16th century, there was a forecourt with stone and wooden buildings near the castle. Within the end of the 15th century to the beginning of the 16th century, the castle tower was raised. Vaulted floors were built in the rooms of the 1st and 2nd floors. At this time, walls and ceilings were painted in the largest rooms and the chapel. After the collapse of the Livonian Confederation, the castle came under the control of the Duchy of Courland, at which time the castle lord lived in the castle. It was, in my opinion, the most beautiful time of the castle when it was taken over by the Duchy of Courland. The castle was given a new breath. Unfortunately, in 1659, it was occupied and partially destroyed by Swedish troops, but the castle was soon restored, partially erecting wooden beams in place of the masonry walls. From the end of the 17th century to the beginning of the 16th century, only a couple of rooms were used in the palace. From 1706 until 1835, the Evangelical Lutheran Church operated in the chapel of the castle. Later, from 1845 until 1901, the Orthodox Church also functioned in the palace. In the year 1827, the castle was rebuilt in the Empire style, and the premises were adapted to the needs of the state administration, furnishing the castle tower apartment and creating a prison on the 3rd floor, which was used from 1832 until 1959. In the middle of the 19th century, 2 buildings were built near the castle for the needs of the prison, which housed chambers, a prison kitchen, and apartments for service personnel. At the very end of the century, the castle came into the possession of the Russian crown. In the early 60s, the castle was taken over by the Soviet army, which left it in 1983. After that, for a short time, the castle stood uninhabited. The first attempts at its exploration and restoration took place, which unfortunately were not completed. Current restoration work began in 1996, and in 2001, they were completed in the tower of the castle, as well as on the 1st and 3rd floors.